Hello again. Today we have the Olympus Trip 35mm film camera. You may have come across these in your travels because boy, there's a lot of them out there. Olympus introduced this model in the late 1960s, made it all through the 1970s. During the 70s, popular British photographer David Bailey was involved in the successful ad campaign for this camera. And the production run lasted all the way into the 1980s even, so there were literally millions of these cameras produced. And with so many of these made, you would think, well, this must be a pretty good camera, and I would agree with that. I think it is a pretty good camera. We'll take a look here at the size of this camera. You can see that it's pretty compact, although it's not super compact. You'd have to have a pretty big pocket to make this pocketable. And in the wintertime I do, so sometimes it will stick in my pocket, but for the rest of the time, I typically have it on a strap around my neck, holds a little bit more securely and easier to access that way. We'll take a little closer look at the camera now and go over some specs with it. Let's take a look at the front of the camera here. First thing you can see is the famous Zuiko 40mm lens. It's got 4 elements in 3 groups and it ranges from f2.8 all the way down to f22. Around the lens you can see the selenium cell which powers the meter. The nice thing about this is with the selenium cell you can get automatic exposure without a battery, and that's really the trip part of the Trip 35. You can take it on trips to places where batteries might not be readily available and you don't have to worry about it. Also in the front here there's a PC sync. Take a look on the inside here. Let's take a look at the top panel here. We've got the hot shoe there. Shutter release here. This is threaded for a standard cable release. One other thing about this is the older models of this had the silver shutter release like this one. After 1978 they switched over to black. There's the serial number there, frame counter there. Taking a look at the lens barrel here, the red A is for the program automatic mode, and that's the mode that helps you take those automatic exposures with no battery, just using the selenium cell. If the cell thinks you don't have enough light to make it adequate exposure, a little red flag will pop up in the viewfinder and it'll prevent you from taking the shot. If you want to override that though, all you need to do is move it over to the f2.8 and that will let you take the shot. That is putting it into flash sync mode. That will fix your shutter speed at 1/40th of a second. This camera actually only has 2 shutter speeds, 1/40th of a second and 1/200th of a second. Here you can see the distance icons. The 1 person icon right there is for 1 meter. 2 people icon is for 1.5 meters. 3 people is 3 meters, and of course the mountain is for infinity. Now these are hard stops, but you can stop it anywhere in between those hard stops as well. Here you've got the ASA dial, which of course now we call ISO or sometimes EI. It does range from 400 all the way down to 25. Earlier models of this did stop at 200. This one has all the way up to 400 like most models do. Now that we've taken a look at some of the tech specs on this camera, let's check out some of the images. So what do I like most about this camera? Its simplicity. After you've set the ISO, all you need to do once you've composed your shot is just set the focus and you're good to go. Now this is a zone focus camera. I know a lot of people hate zone focus, but I gotta admit, I really like zone focus because my first serious 35mm camera is the Lomo LCA. And I know some people might argue that's more of a toy camera, and maybe it is, but either way, it is a zone focus camera. It's the camera I learned on, so I'm very comfortable with zone focus. As a matter of fact, the older I get, the less I like fiddling with rangefinder patches and manual focus SLRs, and the more I find myself gravitating towards zone focus, autofocus, and even cheap little plastic focus-free cameras. One tip about the Trip 35, if you're not using it, go ahead and put a lens cap on it, and that will help preserve your selenium cells for your light meter. So if you're looking for a classic camera that's fairly compact, has a 2.8 lens, and is dead simple to use, the Trip 35 is a solid choice. If you're new to this channel and you like film photography, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications so you can check out more videos like this. You can see more of my photography on Instagram and Flickr as The Old Camera Guy. Thanks for watching, and as always, do some good, have some fun, and shoot some film.